Thank you for joining us this morning on our webinar of the day, our sojourn across Corsica, a wonderful island in the Mediterranean, which of course is off the coast of Italy, just to the north of Sardinia. And this is where we're going to be heading at the end of April, beginning of May of next year. And so as per usual, I will just say a few words for those who are new about Wheel and Anchor and what our mission is. We started 5 years ago. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. This was on the heels of the 32 years I've spent around travel, bringing Canadians to all parts of the world. And the philosophy that we brought to Wheel and Anchor in starting this community was all about the idea of like-minded travelers and bringing people who have a similar view of the world and a similar view of exploring the world together for some fun trips and some camaraderie, which is really a big part of travel. You know, it makes a difference. I mean, a lot of our members are also independent travelers, and you know, there's some parts of the world that make sense, and a lot of people like to travel on their own, but you know, other times it's fun to go with a group and have laughs and share all those wonderful experiences along the way. And when you have something in common with those other people, and I was listening earlier to some of the testimonials from a while back from some of our members who participated in other trips, and you know, the constant theme about how the group was so friendly and I clicked with people and there wasn't anybody that, you know, I didn't like, and it was, you know, a very different vibe. And you know, we can never always guarantee who we're going to travel with, but when we set the standard for, you know, who we are and what we're about, that's embodied in our traveler's creed, then invariably we have people who are like-minded, and that's kind of what we're all about at Wheel and Anchor. And in doing so, we get to become well-traveled and well-connected. And so in keeping with our philosophy of bringing travelers together, invariably the goal is to become well-traveled. And for us, well-traveled is, you know, not just about, you know, saying that you've been to a place. I mean, how many trips or how many people you've talked to that, you know, went on a cruise and said, oh, we went to Rome, and we went to Barcelona, and we went to, you know, Florence, and we went different places, but you know, the memory of it is so fleeting because there wasn't really the time to sort of settle down. I say sometimes the best way to really get the feel for a place, a city, or a town, or a region that you're traveling in is just hanging out and having a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and watching the people go by and talking to the locals and just having the time to you know, become a little bit a part of the local environment. And that's what we consider to be the essence of travel, and also the essence of becoming connected to other people. So that's what we are all about. So let me introduce our team so that we can carry on with our webinar today. So my name again, Gordon Dreger. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. And as I said before, I've been bringing travel to Canadians for more than 30 years. But I couldn't do it without my amazing team. And joining us live today on the webinar, Barb Colmegis, who's one of our trip specialists. Good morning again, Barb. She's working away to get Virginie sorted out on the webinar. And also Paula Zarnik, many of you will know, who has been with us for a few years, another one of our trip specialists who will take care of answering all your questions and getting you signed up for our trip. And then we have, last but not least, Virginie, who is hanging out there somewhere in cyberspace trying to get on our webinar. And she is our local partner in Corsica, whom I traveled with last year a little bit around, and we talked a lot, and she is a wonderful guide and host and representative of this amazing island. And she's going to be the person who's going to take us through and hopefully is going to join us on this webinar to take us through as well. So we're going to see in a couple of minutes. So our agenda today is to go through Corsica from south to north, and myself and Virginie will be your guides this morning, and we are going to show you all about what let's see what Corsica is all about. So first of all, the map. So as you can see from the inset here, Corsica is located in the Mediterranean. Actually, the inset doesn't quite show it, but the landmass over here, on the right side of the inset, is actually mainland Italy. So Corsica is a lot closer to Italy geographically, and actually has a lot culturally that makes it in some ways more comparable to Italy than to France, which obviously it is a département, a part of. And so Corsica also sits north of Sardinia, which, as I mentioned before we started, is where we're going to be having our first sojourn program. So you can join us for Sardinia, which is a 10-night program from the south to the north, and then continuing on to Corsica, where we will begin down here in Porto Vecchio, which is the principal town in the southern part of the island. And you can fly in. They have two main airports in Corsica. So if you're joining us just for Corsica, or if you're going to join us in Corsica and carry on to Provence, which we're going to be doing immediately after this, you can fly in here to Figari, which is an airport in the south of the island near Porto Vecchio. And we fly out of Bastia itself, which is a larger city in the north, the gateway to this Cap Corse, the peninsula at the north end of the island. Interestingly, the capital city of the island, which we will also visit, is called Ajaccio, which you'll see here on the west side of the island. And it's less interesting from a touristic standpoint, with the big exception that it is the hometown of Napoleon. And so that's why we're going to be stopping there when we travel from Porto Vecchio down up to Bastia on the program.
Hi, everybody. My name is Virginia. I'm a licensed tour guide for more than 10 years in Corsica. I'm a passionate licensed tour guide about my island, but also the Mediterranean area as well. And I'm very pleased that you plan to come and visit this island.
Yes, we're excited. And as I said, Virginia and I sat together last year in Corsica planning this program, and I can personally speak for her passion about Corsica and everything along the way. And there you are, yay! Yeah. Dressed appropriate for the weather. I guess it's still hot there.
Yes, it's about 38 degrees, and it's very, very windy today. Very windy.
There you go. And that's why we had a slight delay. Anyway, we won't dwell on that any longer. It's also why we're going in April and May, because quite honestly, I can't imagine going to this part of the Mediterranean in summertime. It's just too hot for us Canadians.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. And it's very crowded. So this is probably the best period to come and visit us.
The best period to come and visit. So the first day we'll arrive in Corsica, and as I say, our trip begins, as I showed you on the map, at the south end of the island. We're going to be visiting first Porto Vecchio. So arrival means if you're joining us in Sardinia, we'll be leaving our last stop there, which is the town of Alghero in the north part of Sardinia, and taking a ferry across the small strait. It's not even very long. It's not even barely an hour to get from Sardinia to Corsica. Yeah. We will land at Bonifacio, which is a spectacular town that we'll also take a short visit of. Sits up on big, huge white cliffs, amazing. And then we'll make our way into Porto Vecchio. And for those who are flying in, which will likely be via Paris, is the best way from Canada to get to Figari. There are other ways, but we won't dwell on that. And then we'll start in the beautiful town of Porto Vecchio. And so, Virginie, tell us a little bit about this this beautiful town. I was really taken by it. The town itself, which sits up on a hill, the old town. We're staying right in the middle of the old town. The mountains in the back. It's just amazing. Tell us about it, Virginie.
Yeah, so Porto Vecchio is one of the most popular city on the island, right after Calvi, for example. These two cities actually draw the main tourist activity. And this Porto Vecchio, particularly because of its lovely beaches, but also because of this wonderful, amazing mountains we have in the background. You have the best pictures to show your guests what you can expect from this area. And then Porto Vecchio is also highly interesting about its history, because many people come and visit Porto Vecchio like if it was like a little Saint-Tropez. But actually, Porto Vecchio has a very interesting history related to the 16th century and Barbary pirates and the Republic of Genoa. So a lot of things to see and to learn about this fantastic city.
A lot of things, and it's so picturesque and pretty that, again, we'll have time. Virginia is going to take us around and show us a little bit of the town, but to just amble around and walk on your own. And it is, as I say, it's perched up on top of a hill, so you can get down to the port. You have to walk down the hill and explore that area. There's some hiking trails for the free day. There's lots of things to do on your own, but we're going to venture out the next day into the mountains. And I must say, this is a picture of me standing up on this rock in the area of Bavella. And we were talking about this because Virginia has exactly the same picture, and you could have the same picture too.
Yes,
Bavella,
yes, you're right.
in this region, which is famous for people who really enjoy walking in the amazing mountains of Corsica. What's it like?
Actually, Bavella is one of the crossing points of the famous hiking trail called the GR20. The GR20 is a hiking path that is 175 kilometers long. It's the toughest and the most popular trail you can find in Europe. And Bavella is very particular because you have these granite needles, granite peaks that actually overlook just above you. And you have, if it's not cloudy, of course, you have an amazing view down to the sea. So you can really scrutinize these steep valleys in the area. It's covered with forests. Maybe you don't know that, but Corsica is the most mountainous island of the Mediterranean area, but it's also an island covered by 2/3 of forests. So, of course, it gives sceneries and landscapes you can't find elsewhere in the Med area, at the whole island.
Yeah, you can't find elsewhere in the Mediterranean. And this is what really took me about the scenery there, is it's magical, but it's dotted with all these picturesque little villages around. We'll stop in some for a coffee or for some lunch. And it's just, it has a charm that is, unlike any other place in the Mediterranean. So
yes,
we'll spend a full day out. We're not going to walk along the whole 170 kilometers of GR20. Maybe we'll do that on another trip, but you're going to get a taste of it and be able to see some of these vistas that Corsica is so well known for. We're going to have a free day as well in Porto Vecchio. What are some of the other things that people might want to explore or see around the area?
Porto Vecchio is also popular for its gastronomy and its wine experience, for example. Of course, because of its lovely beaches around, you have also all this water sport, boat excursion, thing like that. But actually, people just love to, to wander in Porto Vecchio and to experience the meeting also with the local people, because it's a very small citadel, so it's quite easy to be in contact with the locals and to, to taste some local products and wine, etc. So, according to what you would like to explore, it's very easy to do it from Porto Vecchio.
Very easy to do it. And as you said, there's hiking trails, there's beaches, and you might not think that at this time of the year you could go swimming. And I think for some of the locals, but I know that some of us went swimming this past April, May in Sicily and in this part of the Mediterranean. And so the waters are cool, but when you see the beaches, it's very inviting. So we'll invite you to do that. You mentioned wine, and of course, part of any trip in this part of France has to be to a vineyard to see what's up. And in Canada, we don't come across a lot of Corsican wines. So
I guess this is also partly explained because this is a small island, Corsica. We have a quite important wine production, but of course, due to its geographical limits, the production can go over a certain amount of liters of production of bottles produced. So even if a part of it is exported throughout the world and from Japan to even Quebec or Canada or the United States, it's in very small proportions because, to be honest, we are the first drinkers of our wines. So there are not so many left for others.
We always say that about France, right? They keep all the best ones for themselves, and then they send what's left over. But Corsica, again, distinct terroir, which gives the wines
Yeah.
a character that, again, will be different than what you'll find from your classic
Yes,
blend.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's due to its this very complex geology we have. Corsica is considered as an Elysium of the geology in the Med area. And then you have also the weather, climate, the mountains, the proximity with the sea. So you have this salty also influence on our grapes, not to mention that we have more than 30 local grapes, among which 3 of them are considered as the most noble on the island. So if you like wine, I'm quite confident in the fact that you will love our wines.
Yes, we have no doubt about that. The next day that we have is and I should stick in another picture of the map. So as I mentioned, we're going to spend the first half of our trip in Porto Vecchio, exploring the southern part of the island, the Bavella, the jagged mountain peaks of that area. And then we have quite a long day. I want to be transparent about this, because we have a lot to see on this day. So we're going to leave, and even though Corsica is small by our Canadian standards of everything big, it's still a bit of a drive. So we're going to leave, at a good time in the morning, probably 8:30 out of Porto Vecchio, and we're going to head north up to the west coast of the island and hit Ajaccio, which is the capital city. And what's important about Ajaccio?
Ajaccio is definitely a place to visit, especially this year. Because Ajaccio is the birthplace of Napoleon Bonaparte and was born in this city on August 15, 1769. So we have a whole city dedicated to his son, and its family, because Napoleon is probably the most famous one for sure. But other members of his family, including Cardinal Fesch, for example, were very, very famous back to the 19th century. And as I mentioned you, Gordon, this year will be released in November a movie dedicated to Napoleon, directed by the famous Ridley Scott, who did Gladiator. And this year it took. So this probably is the best year to come and visit Jacques.
There you go. So, and I wouldn't wait till November to book onto this trip, because maybe there won't be any spots left. But I think when the movie comes out, it is going to just, again, we've all heard of Napoleon. We've all studied a bit about him in history, but to actually be there in his birthplace in this city is remarkable. So we'll spend a part of the day. We'll have lunch over there in Ajaccio, and then we'll drive back northeast to the northern part of the island, to Bastia, passing again some incredible scenery. I mean, it's the scenery it never ends. It's so amazing. And we'll stop in one of the villages along the way, and pictures abound. It's amazing. And we'll end up in the evening in Bastia. Bastia is the second largest city of Corsica, is it?
Yes, of course. Bastia is the second most populated city on the island, with population amounting to 50,000 inhabitants. To give you an idea to compare with, Ajaccio is 70,000 inhabitants. So when you group Ajaccio and Bastia, you amount to 120,000 people, which is 1/3 of the total population of the island.
To give you a sense. So again, the island is not populous, but a lot of the people live in these towns of Bastia, Ajaccio, Porto Vecchio, in and around these areas. But then you have all these lovely villages strewn around. So we'll spend 5 nights in Bastia, in the heart of a city, in actually a brand new hotel that I visited when I was there last year, and I was so happy to find a charming family-owned hotel in the middle of town, and we'll be able to explore the city. What is Bastia so known for, or why is it important?
Alors, Bastia is completely different from Ajaccio, because Ajaccio has really developed its tourism around Napoleon and its family. Bastia has started its tourism far later, because it was like the industrial center on the island. So it was not that famous about its heritage, but to a long-term work of both the City Hall and licensed tour guides and tourist office. Bastia has now a very important tourist activity because its heritage is incredible. I mean, about religion, about traditions, about architecture, about great trade, and all these big families, important families that actually were completely involved in the economic development of the island.
Exactly. And you'll be really, I was really, I mean, I love both of the towns that we're staying in, both Porto Vecchio and Bastia, but Bastia feels even more like you can feel the sense of this trading culture. Bastia is also a major port where the ferries and cargo ships come from both mainland Italy and also France to the north. But at the same time, it's very friendly and yeah, it's a terrific spot. But one of the other major reasons is because the surrounding countryside is incredible. And Cap Corse, which you see a photograph here, is the peninsula that juts out to the north. I traveled this basically all the way around the peninsula. It's a wonderful day trip that we're going to do as well. Yeah, once again, the vistas are incredible. Tell us a little bit more about Cap Corse and what we'll experience along the way.
Alors, Cap Corse is a very particular place in Corsica. We call it the finger because it's completely in the north, and it's a peninsula which is about 40 kilometers long, 10 kilometers wide. So this is really a mountain into the sea because the highest peak is above 1,300 meters of altitude. So you have a part of it, the oriental part, which is quite, let's say, smooth. And on the other side, western part, it's very steep. So even if it's not that large, you have completely different sceneries according if you are on the west side or on the east side. Not to mention that this part of Corsica is very, very wild. So except these villages that are along this coastal road, let's say, the rest of it, it's just about vegetation, rocks, and this part of Corsica is special because it's schist. So in geology, this is the only place where we have it. So of course, in the built heritage, you have something completely different from the rest of Corsica.
Exactly. And as I say, I mean, for me, you get the combination of mountains and cliffs and beautiful. I mean, you could see the color of the water a little bit from the photograph here and the different angles. I mean, honestly, my favorite part from a scenery perspective of the island is spending this day going around Cap Corse. It's absolutely worth it. The roads are windy, so for those who that's an understatement. So if you're somebody that sometimes gets a little queasy in the back of the bus, make sure we'll remind you to take your gravel or your, whatever. But the experience is well worth it. Also nearby to Bastia is Patrimonio and Saint Florent, which are towns that are not only known for wine, there's more to it than that. What can we expect to see there?
Alors, Patrimoine is definitely the emblematic area concerning the wine industry in Corsica because it was the first region to reactivate wineries in the 70s and 80s. So, because right after World War II, to be honest, the economy of Corsica was desperate. So we had to wait the late 70s to have an economic recovery. And the first food processing industry that has been reactivated was wine, and in this precise area of Patrimonio. Today, Patrimonio is very popular for many reasons, not only for its wine, but also for its music festival, for example, which is actually right now, Les Nuits de la Guitare. We had the opportunity to have Eric Clapton to come and perform in this village. So you see, and the surroundings are quite astonishing because we also have limestone in this area. So we have a very particular terroir. And then about Saint Florent. Saint Florent is a very lovely citadel located into a lovely gulf, which opens to coastal paths that are very popular popular. Alors, you are Canadian, but you have probably seen this very famous movie called The Longest Day about the disembarkment of Normandy with John Wayne. The scenes, the shootings, part of this movie were actually done next to Saint Florent on the beach of Saleccia. So you know already Corsica, even if you don't know it. But Saint Florent is a really lovely place.
Exactly, and this is the beautiful thing is that these scenes come up in these movies, but it's often not mentioned, or it's somewhere in the fine print at the end. But these scenes are taken from Corsica and numerous other movies as well, because it's just such a beautiful place to visit. We'll have a free day in Bastia as well, but I was talking with Virginia and we were talking about what we're going to do on the free day, and so your idea was brilliant. So we're going to, for those that wish, because again, we like to make sure that you have free time to explore and soak in the atmosphere of these places. But we're going to make a half-day trip for those that wish to join us up to Castanizia. And why would we do that?
The Castanacci region was the richest, the wealthiest one of Corsica in the 18th century. This is a very special place covered with chestnut trees. This is the emblematic region concerning our smoked meat, this Corsican specialties, very famous throughout the world. But actually what is very interesting about this area is that it is the place where was born Pasquale Paoli, who was the leader of independent Corsica back in the 18th century. It was the Enlightenment century, and he wrote a constitution in 1755. It was more than 30 years before the French Revolution. It was 20 years before the creation of the United States of America. And actually this region is a real jewel, and I would be very happy to take you there, because this is, I can't describe it. I mean, this is definitely a place you won't expect to see what you're going to see. Wow, this is a real surprise, really.
Yeah, it's a great surprise. So if you don't otherwise decide, we're going to convince you to drag you along on the free day. But again, it's important to us that you also have the time to enjoy some of these things on your own. And I know that we have some some people who like to walk and hike in the group. That's why we also have free days, to enable you the opportunity to go and do some walking in the wonderful mountains around. So that will be something that we can facilitate for you as well. And that will bring us to the end of our journey through Corsica. Sorry, and so I'll just share with you a few details about the trip, all of which, of course, you can find in the program itinerary that you will have gotten already. And if you didn't, we'll make sure to send you another copy with the replay of this webinar. So the program again will begin from the 23rd of April to the beginning of May. A great time to visit, because it's before, well before summer, when the masses descend upon Corsica. Not to mention that, as Virginia just mentioned, the weather can be unbearably hot, but in springtime it is truly lovely. You may get the occasional shower here or there, but the weather is typically sort of in the mid to high teens, maybe even in the 20s. These days things tend to be warmer than we anticipate, which is a good thing for visiting. But again, you have it's a quiet time to come. So pricing here, as you can see, for twins and singles, we have I think a fairly reasonable single price there. As usual, our program includes 10 nights of accommodation. We have 2 lovely hotels, charming small hotels. There aren't a lot of big hotels in the center of these towns, so we found some quite charming places that I have visited in both Bastia and Porto Vecchio. And of course, the lovely Virginia, who will be taking us around her beautiful island. And various meals and wine tastings and other things along the way are included in the program. So as usual, we will facilitate your airfare for you, and travel insurance, which are in addition. Looking at airfares here, airfares have gone up, unfortunately, in over the past year. So this is what we're looking at based on our most recent checks. But one thing I'll say about getting to Corsica, and if you decide to join us for Sardinia, or if you decide to come with us on the subsequent program, because we will be heading to Bastia, from Bastia to the mainland of France to Toulon by overnight ferry. And so sometimes just flying to and from France is maybe a better option. So you could always join us on the ferry to France, and then fly back from Toulon or Marseille or one of those places. So there's different ways to do it, and we'll be happy to give you some advice on that. And if you join us on this trip in the next few weeks, we're able to offer our early booking bonus, and that is indicated there as well as in our program itinerary. And now it's time to answer some questions, Barb, from some of our members that they might have about this trip, what to expect.
Yeah, we have a good question about with the hiking, how many opportunities is there to hike, I guess, scheduled versus the free days?
Yep. So scheduled, I mean, this is not overall a hiking trip. So we will be touring around, obviously with minibuses with Virginia. And we have 2 days that one can go if one wants to go on a longer hike. And there are numerous opportunities both in Porto Vecchio and Bastia, I believe. Is that correct, Virginia?
Yes, it's quite easy to arrange that. I mean, then it would depend the type of a hike your guest would like to do.
Yeah.
Of course, from the easiest one on the coastal path, for example, to tougher one, like in Baville, for example. So just it would depend only on the type of hike your guest would like to do.
Yeah, so I think that if you're somebody that's interested in walking and hiking, and we have more and more members, then let us know when you're inquiring or making the booking. And then, if we have a number of hikers, then we'll be pleased to facilitate some nice hikes while you're there. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then another question that we do get a lot is, how is that facilitated if there's people of different sort of hiking levels? If some people want to do
well, I think that, yeah, it's a good question. We'll sort of have to assess based on who actually decides to join us. I mean, we will, so that we can accommodate everybody, we'll likely pick the easier of the hikes, as opposed to the most challenging hikes, which is probably less suitable for most of our members. And my memory from the little bit of walking I did around is, Virginia, you can do some lovely walks that are, you can, they're not super strenuous, but still give you the benefit of all of the beautiful views that you get.
Yeah. I mean, in the area of Porto Vecchio, it's really easy to organize a hike. I mean, of course, it would depend on the number of guests and the type of hike they would like to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we have this information, let's say far before we begin the tour, I could arrange the best options to please everyone.
Exactly. So we'll definitely do our best, and Virginia will help out to make sure that we get on the right hikes. And I know many of our hosts, we haven't assigned a host to the trips, but love hiking as well. So I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to set you up and make sure you have a great time.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. Just one other question is sort of what types of accommodations that will be used on the trip?
Yeah, so being a Sojourn, we're using traditional hotels. So we have, I would call them 3 to 4 star hotels. They're fairly small. The hotel that we're using in Porto Vecchio we actually have 2 hotels that are almost next door to each other, that have around 20 to 25 rooms. Ideally, we put everybody in the same hotel, but it all depends on when our members decide to join us and book, because we can only hold on to rooms for so long, and these hotels tend to get booked up pretty quickly when you pick the little smaller boutique hotels. But they have so they're traditional local hotels, which means, given that we're in France, the rooms are modest in size. So we're not talking North American size hotel rooms. They're hard to find in France anywhere. But yeah, the rooms are cozy, and they have breakfast on site as well. So yeah, it is hotels as opposed to apartment style accommodation like we do on some of our live away programs.
Okay, excellent. Oh, what is the maximum number of people on this trip? That question.
The maximum would be 18. I expect that we will probably have a group of more like 12 to 16 is kind of where we anticipate, we hope that we'll end up, but we won't take more than 18.
Okay, those are the questions that have come in so far. So as always, people are welcome to call or email us if they have additional questions. And if anybody's interested at all in the trip, let us know, because we do have the additional information document that we can individually send out to people.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got our program itinerary, additional information. It's all there. And of course, Paula and Barb are more than happy to answer any questions. And otherwise, we'll go back to Virginia. Virginia, thank you for joining us on the webinar today. I know you rushed over, having been delayed on a trip. So we appreciate so much.
Thank you. I was very pleased to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And we look forward to seeing you next April in Corsica.
I would be very pleased, of course.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you very much.
All right, great. And Barb just posted our next 2 webinars, which are all about France. In fact, the 2 subsequent programs to this are Provence that I mentioned. So you can do Corsica and continue on mainland France in Provence and Côte d'Azur, where we'll be visiting Nice, as well as the lovely villages of Haute-Provence in the hills around to the north and west of Nice. And then subsequent to that webinar is tomorrow on Wednesday. And subsequent to that, on Thursday, we're going to be returning to the Canal du Midi, which is that beautiful canal that Napoleon built, ironically, between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to be doing a portion of that by canal boat as I say, following then Provence. We had a great time last year with 3 boats full of members with a lot of laughs. So watch out for that webinar, which is this coming Thursday. So this week, it's all about Southern France and Corsica. Thanks again. And look forward to hearing from you and seeing you hopefully on the next couple of days on one of these other webinars. Take care.